Hey guys, it's the 2x4 Chef, and guess what we're making today? We're gonna make something kind of cool. Why? Because it's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. It's called couscous. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have had couscous before, and some of you have all had one type of couscous, and other of you have had other types of couscous, and couscous mixed with different things, and maybe some of you haven't had couscous at all. So today I'm going to take you through making a couscous, sort of the way I like to make it, obviously, but it has a little bit of a twist to it. It's a lot of layers of different types of flavors and texture. Now, I talk about texture all the time, and why? Because when you're eating foods, it shouldn't be one-dimensional. It should, when you put it in your mouth, you should just be able to taste the different things that are in your dish, to have different things going on at once. It just makes things, it's just a little bit exciting. So what I have here laid out is all the different things that I'm going to use, and honestly, it's very, very simple. I'm making a couscous that's called Middle Eastern couscous is what I am using. And what's the difference between Middle Eastern couscous and what you're used to? This is the Middle Eastern couscous. As you can see, it's round, it's much larger than the couscous you're used to, which is all come from the same source. It comes from semolina flour. And basically how they make it is that they add water to the semolina flour and they keep rolling it in the semolina, and they roll it into a ball, which it becomes this size. And why do I like using, and why do they call it Middle Eastern couscous? Because this type of couscous does come from, used more frequently in the Middle East. It's bigger, it's bolder, it stands up to dishes. A lot of the couscous that we're used to is spine cut semolina couscous, which I like to call sort of an instant couscous, and which is awesome as well. It's a little more delicate, it fluffs up. This doesn't fluff up, it's bold, it absorbs liquid, which you can add flavor to, and it really adds a dimension to a dish. And what we're doing right now is we're going to sort of take you through how we're going to make it. And what I like to do is, first of all, the ingredients we're using today are we're using fresh bell peppers, fresh carrot, we're using fresh cut scallion, or what we call green onions. I have red onion cut really fine. I have chorizo. Now, what is chorizo, you may ask? For those of you who know, you know it's a sausage that comes from basically parts of Latin America. It comes from Europe, Spain, which is in Europe actually, and Mexico. Most of us who eat in Mexican restaurants know chorizo with eggs. It's crumbly, it's got a bit of a spice kick to it. And chorizo is made with pork and pork fat that's chopped up and then rolled in spices with some little bit of chili and paprika. And that's where it gets this really cool red color. The paprika, you see it comes off on your fingers. It has a wonderful smell, especially when you're cooking it. And there's different types. There's dried chorizo, and this is partially dried chorizo. See how solid it is? I mean, the chorizo you get from Mexico is more of a wet sausage, and when you cook it, it crumbles down, where I like to use more Spanish style chorizo because it stays solid and you have these nice pieces in your couscous that stand up and give it a lot of flavor. As you see, I already started it in the pan, and you can see how it's already it's cooking, and the paprika is breaking out and the fat is breaking down, and we'll put the rest in and we'll get this cooking because we're going to add that in towards the end of our dish. We don't add it while we're cooking it. What happens if you do, it will make your couscous completely red, and we're not looking to have your couscous red. We want to have it just a nice steady flavor. So we're going to let that, well, fry up and get a little crispy, and then we'll take it out. And just to show you where I got the chorizo from, I bought it from one of my local Hispanic markets, and this is a nice piece of chorizo that I bought. As you see, it's solid, and I sliced it really nice thin slices. And it's beautiful stuff. I love chorizo. I love it with my eggs. I have chorizo probably once a week with my eggs. They call it the huevos con chorizo. That's eggs with chorizo. And you have nice warm tortillas and beautiful, fluffy, nice and spicy. It's a great way to start your day. What we're going to do, we're going to start with the couscous, or we're going to cook it. Because you're going to have some sort of liquid to cook your couscous with. I use free-range chicken stock. I don't use low-sodium chicken stock. Personally, I don't believe in low-sodium chicken stock. You know, if you use a chicken stock that's low-sodium, you're going to have to adjust your salt more. When you use regular made chicken stock that's free range, it does have sodium in it, and always, as I said before in my other classes for you, that add salt as you go, taste as you go. Always remember, if you just add a bunch of salt in the beginning and you find out your dish is super salty, you have a problem. It's always good to use less and build up your flavor as you go, especially with salt or any type of spice. You're going to have to be careful. So what we're doing is we're taking our stock and we're warming it up. And why are we doing that? Well, you're going to have to add the stock into your couscous. So what we're going to do is we're going to start cooking the couscous. We're going to take some olive oil. We're going to put it in my pan in the back. And you're going to need a good either heavy bottom pan or saucepan. I like a bigger one. Why? Because the couscous lays flatter in a bigger pan and it cooks more evenly. What we're going to do is we're going to brown the couscous. And why do we do that? Well, it adds a nuttiness to the couscous texture. I'm also going to add some herbs to the couscous while I'm going to be browning it, which is a little different, but you know, once I said layers and layers of flavor and texture are very, very important, and that is why I like to add in a nice herb while I'm cooking my couscous. What we're going to do is we'll throw in our couscous with onion, and we're going to start the onion first. This is the nice red onion. It's about half a red onion. You could use less, use more. I like to use a good amount of red onion, and we're going to get it to the point of where we're going to crisp the onion up. We'll get it a little hotter. And you can see as right now this is it's steaming in the back here, our stock. So we don't have to boil it. We got it hot enough. What you want to do is you want to just turn it down to low and keep it warm. And that way you know it's warm, and when we're ready to use it, we'll go right ahead and I'll show you how to pour that in there safely. You don't have any problems when you get your couscous ready. Now I'm going to show you how we're getting along here with our chorizo. See how that is now? It's getting nice and brown, a nice color. It smells just amazing. That paprika smell and the chilies that are in there. Now, you can get chorizo that is spicy. There are chorizos that are mild. A lot of what they call the Basque chorizos from Spain, they're really not spicy, but they have a lot of great flavor. The ones from Mexico generally do have a little bit of a bite to it and a kick. There's in Mexican food, a lot of Mexican food does have a nice little kick to it, which is not a bad thing whatsoever. Soon our chorizo is going to be almost done. And instead of just throwing my vegetables into couscous, not cooked, I'm going to cook our vegetables in the fat rendered. And what is rendering is when you cook down a piece of meat or bacon. You know, when you cook a piece of bacon and when you pull your bacon out, there's a layer of liquid fat in there. Well, that's rendering down the bacon. So the bacon gets crispy, the fat renders and comes out of the meat and leaves you with a nice flavor. And the great thing about doing this with the chorizo is because you have so many different spices going on at once in the chorizo, it has a beautiful texture and flavor. And I personally think it's a great way to add another layer of flavor to the couscous. There's nothing better than adding more and more flavor. And you don't want to use spice with couscous. Couscous is an accompaniment, or you can eat it as a main dish if you'd like. You don't have to use chorizo or meats. If you don't like chorizo or don't like pork, you can buy turkey sausage, you can buy chicken sausage, you can use Italian sweet sausage if you want. It doesn't matter, it's what you like to use. My preferences are what I like, and there's nothing wrong with changing it up. So if you want a suggestion or you have a question, you can email me at 2x4chef@att.net, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions or suggestions of where to find some of these ingredients. So the chorizo is almost finished, and you can see it's just beautiful, just getting more and more beautiful. We're almost done. We have the fat rendered, and the onions are starting to get pressed up, and I'll show you the onions. You can see, and it just smells wonderful. Now what I'm going to do is, while this is cooking, I'm going to add in my couscous. You can see about a cup and a half. It will make a good amount of couscous at the end, because when you add your liquid to it, our stock, it increases the volume because the couscous absorbs everything. And the main goal here right now is to see that the couscous gets a nice brown color to it. And like I said, why do I do that? Well, for me, again, when you brown something, you add a flavor to it. And you can have your couscous just plain. Now, if you want to use your couscous just like this, and when I show you the steps on how to prepare the final process of it, go ahead and do it if you don't want to brown it. It really, there's no right or wrong with it. This is the way I like to do it, and I'll tell you, you'll see have a noticeable difference in flavor if you do it my way, because it's just what I like to do here at the 2x4 Chef is just make things a little different for you. That's not expensive, that if you're on a budget, and we're all on a budget today, and really, you know, these are simple, inexpensive ingredients that you can get everywhere. You can get couscous everywhere, you can get vegetables are readily available. It's just really, really a nice way to make something you can use for lunch, you could add for your dinner, and it's just not a problem at all. What we're going to do now is I have a half a green pepper, I have a half a red pepper, and I also have about 1.5 carrots, finely cut up. Now, carrots take a little longer to soften up, but being that we are going to put them into the pan and cook them for a little bit in the pan with the rendered fat from the couscous. And what I'll do is soften these up a little bit. And you don't want to cook it too long. I do like a little bit of crunch to my couscous, and that's very important when you are, once again, are having textures and making different types of food, especially with couscous, because if you overcook your vegetables, some people are so used to, who were brought up with like canned green beans and canned this and canned that, and for those of you who didn't grow up with canned, good for you. Most of us did. They were always soft because they sat in salty liquid. That's why I like my vegetables to have a lot of crunch, because you can really taste them, especially fresh vegetables. It's awesome to have fresh vegetables. Now, while I'm browning my couscous, and you can see, I'm going to add a couple of things. What I did is I have 1.5 teaspoons of dried thyme, which is readily available everywhere, and we're going to add this in right now. And I'm going to take a pinch of kosher salt. This is my kosher salt container. This is how I like to have salt in my kitchen. I can get my hands. I have really big hands, as you can see. It's easy to get to. I can put a lot of salt in here. I'm just going to take about a pinch and put it in with the couscous and the thyme. And now the fragrant of the thyme cooking with browning the couscous and the red onion, it just really smells just absolutely amazing here, and I wish you were here to smell it. But you know what? You can imagine that, and hopefully when you do this at home, you'll just go, wow, that's just really, really great. Now you can use any type of herb that you like. I like thyme. Thyme to me is a wonderful herb. You can use it year round. I grow it because I like fresh, but when I'm doing something like this, I use dried. I use more for fall dishes. I'll use fresh thyme, fresh rosemary, with stews and meats, and for vegetables too. It's really great when you're roasting vegetables to use fresh herbs on them. It's just fantastic. So here's our carrots that have been cooking for about 5 minutes in the fat, and right now we're gonna add our peppers, and we're not gonna cook them too long, especially the peppers, because peppers are, some people like to cook them down. I really like to let them have some crunch as well. But I like to take the edge off a little bit by placing them in the pan and giving them, some time to soften up a little bit. It's important to soften them up a little bit. Like I said, not too much. 5 minutes the most. And then I'm going to take them off the heat. And you can see, show you how our couscous is looking. I'm going to add one more twist to the couscous. You can see how nice color that's getting. It's getting brown, and the flavor and the smell is just wonderful. So a couple more seconds on that. We stir it, and I use a wooden spoon to cook with, especially with couscous or when I'm doing pastas. I like using a wooden spoon. It's very traditional cooking. It's easier with a metal spoon. It's also a little less grated on your ears. Now this is almost getting to where I want it. I'll give that a nice little twist, shake, and I'll tell you something. You see the color, all these colors together, and that's going to go into the white couscous. It's just really, really, it's visually beautiful. Just add some nice color. Now, a little bit of twist, I have a lime here. Now, I'm not going to add a lot of lime, you don't want it to overpower, but it adds another layer of texture, flavor. Why? Because and you can hear it as I'm adding some lime, and you want to take a half a lime and you squeeze it just a little bit into. Now, our next step is we're going to add our liquid. Now, the one thing you want to know when you're adding liquid to a hot pan, if you add cold liquid to a hot pan, it's going to boil over. And this happens a lot. People don't realize that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you is I'm adding hot liquid to a hot pan, and we'll have less boil up. But you see how that steams up, and we add that in. That's a nice, safe way to add your liquid. Vegetables are done too, and we're just going to set them off so they cool off here in the middle. Actually, I'm going to put them in my oven, where as you guys know, that's where, because I have such little space, that's where I keep my food when I'm waiting to use it, or at my next step. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the couscous, bring it to a boil, and it's going to boil up really quick in a bigger pan. And we also I have green onion. What I like to do is I'm going to add the green onion as well. Now you may say, wow, that's a lot of onion you're putting in there. When you cook, the red onion has a little bit of a bite to it, but when you cook it off and you add the acid to it, and the salt and the different flavors, and also it tones it down. And I like the green onion. Why? Because I'm sort of make this with it's a little Spanish style, and I love green onion and red onion together, and it adds two different types of flavor because the red onion, when it cooks, gets sweeter, and the green onion keeps its tone, as in it's a little sharper tone, and the colors are really beautiful. And what you want to make sure that you do is once you get this to boil, you're going to want to cover it and cook it for about 10 minutes on a low heat, so all the liquid gets absorbed into the couscous. You don't want to boil it and cover it and keep it boiling. Why? You'll burn the couscous. It'll burn. It'll absorb all of it. It'll ruin it. And you really have to be careful because you are working with a starch, which, once again, just like a rice, it absorbs liquid, which is what you want it to do, but if you overcook rice, it burns, it gets very sticky, and it's really not that pleasurable to eat. And we don't want to do it because we want to use this for a nice presentation. Now it's boiling really nice. I'm going to turn it down and I'm going to cover it. And we're going to let that cook for about 5 minutes. So I'm going to take a little break and I'll see you in a few minutes, and then we'll finish up our dish. Hey guys, 2x4 Chef, and I am back. And now what we're going to do is we're going to show you the couscous, which has now been cooked. You can see how it raised up and it absorbed all that chicken stock. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add in our vegetables, which I kept in my oven. Stir that in. It's really easy. It's just nice color. I also have here some cilantro, which cilantro is readily available everywhere at any market. It's very inexpensive, and cilantro is used mostly in Mexican cooking. The Chinese call it coriander. It is technically called coriander. It adds another level of flavor to the dish. And I'm just going to add a touch of salt, because I really didn't use a lot of salt. So another pinch of salt. And then we're going to add in the chorizo, which browned up. Do is we'll serve some up. Dish. Let's add a little more cilantro. And you can see, fantastic. Look at the chorizo stands out because I cut it in nice discs with different colors with your green peppers, and you can see the side of the cilantro, and it's beautiful. What we do with it is you can put it on a plate with meats. You can eat it alone for lunch. It's wonderful. It's easy. I told you everything is just very simple food with simple flavors and lots of textures. Anytime you have a question and you want to add something and you don't really comfortable with it, please give me an email at the 2x4chef@att.net. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I really appreciate you hanging out and enjoying this simple dish, and we will see you soon. Thank you.